Well, number one is keep it offline. Obviously, we have looked at coming up with gaming, where you could rent out a theater to do gaming on the big screen. We'll have to find other alternatives for our screens. Of course, we've always been into the alternative content, so we've been doing that for a while. I think it'll be, we've looked at streaming football.
Yeah, well, and I think people were really hungry to get out. That's for sure. Sort of the joyousness of the crowds at football games. That there's more to it than the game. I'm curious about it, whether there's going to be an actual cultural impact.
I mean, I guess everyone's going to have to figure out what to do, right?
Yes.
What to do to shift and survive as you need to. I don't know if I would ever put that on their back. I just think like their job is to make work and make good work. Like that's already like a steep slope to climb.
It's going to take some time before we feel comfortable being in that kind of environment again. Movie theaters are going to have to be creative, right? What else do you add to the experience? Do you have the full restaurant experience? Do you have do you use your movie theaters for different kinds of art to try to help bring people in? Do you have talkbacks? What are you going to do to get people to get into the seat? To me, the key is getting people back into the theater and feeling comfortable being in a group in that way. I think that's going to be the first step, and that's going to mean probably shorter runs for movies and a faster turnover in content, but really the enhancement of the experience. What else can we do to make it valuable to be in the space rather than at home? What can we offer? And I think there'll be growth in movie theaters that sell, alcoholic beverages or that have fun food options and things like that. But also so that you can make an evening out of it. But also really thinking creatively about what is special in our community. I mean, one of the things is you go to a big name theater complex in Columbus, and it's the same as going to it in Kansas City, and it's the same as going to it in Los Angeles. The only thing that changes is the price of a ticket, right? But you go to some place like the Athena Uptown, and you see people you have popcorn, you have a talkback with the movie theater, they're showing something that relates to a local issue. And so there's a whole different set of reasons to go, and that's compelling. So I think that's part of what we need to be doing more of. There's no reason why a big multiplex theater in Columbus can't do the same thing. Have smart partnerships with local dance where you have something on screen and you have people dancing in front. I mean, I can just think of all kinds of cool things that would bring people in, because it would provide that immersive experience. So I do think we just have to keep pushing.
Creating that kind of a theater-going experience, which is not spending $150 to go for a ticket to go to Broadway, but you're spending more than just going to see the movie. And it becomes that kind of event. Does that work in Middle America? I don't know. You know what's interesting too? It's like my sense is that who goes to movie theater? It's like 18 to 30-year-olds, and if they're just being weaned off theaters because of streaming, figuring out a way to generate that enthusiasm, that age group, that's where the money is.
And people bring a lot to me. Like I get so many emails every week saying like, "Hey, you want to do this?" or like this, and it's always exciting to go meet someone for a cup of coffee and talk about their vision for what they want to see here. I always find really like wanting to meet people's enthusiasm for different things, but also say like, hey, there's this other thing that we could do. And as a programmer, I think that's kind of our responsibility and duty to like seek and find things that we think would be great for our community. Staying flexible, hearing people, listening to people, making sure that the theater is everyone's space, and really championing any of the initiatives we can to make sure that this space is comfortable and safe for everyone. It's really a combination of listening to our audiences and not being afraid to challenge people and give them something a little outside of their comfort zone.
Sort of where can they go? 3D almost made a comeback. I'm kind of a big proponent of 3D, but the idea that, well, people don't want to wear those glasses, and yet you see people wearing these VR rigs. Well, if those glasses were inconvenient, these VR rigs are like saddling yourself with just a hunk of gear. So, we'll see how things go, but it's hard to imagine. Well, like my screen does 3D great, my home screen. So, it's hard to figure what they could, what new magic trick a theater could do to differentiate itself beyond just the social experience. They own that.
In China, they have virtual reality theaters where a bunch of people get together and you put on your headset and you can watch a movie in virtual reality with a whole bunch of people around you. And I'm imagining that there's a not too distant future where that's one of the things that movie theaters are doing to help bring audiences back in and to help them have a shared immersive experience.
Fortunately, a lot of the stars that's got the clout right now are pushing for theatrical releases. So without them doing it, I think it would be a dimmer prospect out there for us.
There were the days, right, of we're releasing it in theaters the same day we're releasing it as streaming. So they do have the ability to control release patterns, which was the traditional methodology, right? You're not going to make the DVD until it's had its run. That time now between how long it plays in a movie theater and how long before it's released when it's a studio. Netflix is just like, it's about content. They just got to keep cranking out this content for their subscribers.
I grew up with movie dates at school where we would go and see a movie, or we would go and see a movie after school as a special field trip. And I think trying to get the schools back into theaters so we're giving kids that experience, I think that's going to be important too. If we believe that the industry is important, which I really, really do, I think that's going to be critical.
The writing, I think, ultimately is what they got to do to come up with the movies that people haven't already seen. And I think one of the pluses with all the other streaming outlets is the writing has become much better. The competition, it's like anything else. The more competition, the more money is out there. You start getting people doing stuff that otherwise they would not have been doing. So the bottom line to me is, as long as they can keep the writers producing the scripts, I think it'll continue to grow.
We really like to just think outside the box. I have had dreams for so long of making our lobby like a mini installation space and having mini art installations, pop-up installations in our old ticket booth, coordinated with all the specialized programming we're doing. I mean, we're just constantly like, we want to have a piano in here all the time. We move pianos in when we do live performances with silent movies, but we want to just eventually have one here so we don't have to hire movers every time we have a live music thing. So there's a lot we can do and to keep people excited.
If anything we've learned in the pandemic is that screen filmic dramatic content is very important. People have an endless hunger for it. They want it. So the industry is going to have to shift because the monetary drivers of it, as you know, are shifting more to TV. The theaters and the brick and mortar themselves probably won't sustain their current size, right? But if you engage with a full experience, then there's the opportunity to really get people back into the seats and have that collective experience again.